Resistance 4 was a cancelled, upcoming science fiction post-apocalyptic first-person shooter that was being developed by Insomniac Games and published by Sony Computer Entertainment. Recently, it was revealed that Resistance 4 was almost in development but was cancelled by Sony before the game could get off the ground. Let's break down everything we know about the cancellation, including IP rights, why the game was cancelled, and more. As always, all the sources will be linked in the description below, so make sure to check those out and support those original writers. And with that out of the way, let's get into why Resistance 4 was cancelled. The last entry in the series, Resistance 3, was released in 2011. The game received good reviews from critics and fans alike, but the reviews did not translate to sales for the title. It usually doesn't matter how well a game is reviewed if it doesn't lead to additional sales for the game. In January of 2012, the CEO of Insomniac Games, Ted Price, released a video on the Insomniac Games YouTube channel and discussed the future of Resistance. Let's play the clip.
Hi, I'm Ted Price from Insomniac Games, and some of you may have seen the headlines we inadvertently made through an interview I did, where I confirmed that we are not making any more Resistance games. Now, this is not the first time that those of us at Insomniac have said this, but today it was big news. So I did want to confirm it face to face that we are not moving on with the Resistance franchise. Now, a question we've gotten through our forums and through emails is why? Well, we believe that Resistance has reached its logical conclusion in terms of the story we wanted to tell. However, that doesn't mean the Resistance franchise isn't continuing. It's already in the capable hands of Nihilistic, and with Sony's shepherding, we know that it will continue to live on and expand, and we're excited as fanboys to see where it goes.
In the video, he discusses that the team believes the series has reached its logical conclusion and that the story with the main numbered games has finished, but other stories could continue through side stories. Which is disappointing for fans of the series, but it wasn't surprising at the time due to how poor Resistance 3 sold. Then in September of 2012, Jason Schreier sat down with Ted Price to discuss why Resistance, which started out as Sony's equivalent to Halo, never caught on to Halo levels of popularity. Price said, quote, "We have theories internally about why Resistance wasn't a Halo. One is that we changed the game a lot in Resistance 2, and we surprised players in a way that perhaps wasn't what was expected. And that may have not been a good thing, by changing up some of the core mechanics, and we got a lot of strong feedback when we did that. On Resistance 3, we went back to some of our more traditional core mechanics that players did love, and then built a story that was more personal. That, in our opinion, was the way to move the franchise forward in a way that was unique for first-person shooters. We're really proud of Resistance 3, and the team felt very personally connected to Resistance 3. And Prince seems to understand some of the downfalls of the series, but doesn't seem to regret any of the decisions made in any of the games in the Resistance series, regardless of how well they sold or were reviewed. Then in May of 2013, Ted Price did an AMA on Reddit to help promote the team's new game called Fuse. One of the questions he was asked referenced the future of the Resistance series, because at this point Resistance 3 was still less than a year old. And the question said, quote, "Resistance is my favorite games from you, so thank you. Do you ever think you might continue the story of Resistance somehow? And which Resistance game was your favorite?" And Price responded saying, quote, "My favorite Resistance to make was Resistance 1, but my favorite Resistance to play was Resistance 3. The future of Resistance is unclear. I've said we wouldn't go back to making Resistance since we don't own the IP, but I've also learned to say, quote, never say never." And what's interesting in this comment is being reminded of the fact that Insomniac does not own the Resistance IP. It is owned by Sony, and all decisions about future games would have to be greenlit from Sony, regardless of who is developing the project. Which means that if Resistance is ever rebooted, there's a good chance that Insomniac won't be the developer, and Sony could instead choose a new studio. And the last mention of Resistance around this time was in an interview between GamesRadar and Ted Price. When asked about the end of the Resistance series, Price said, quote, "We decided to bring Resistance to a conclusion when we looked ahead and realized that Resistance 4, while possible and something we seriously considered, wasn't going to be the right game for us at that time. We wanted to do something new. One of the aspects of building franchises and sticking with them for a long time is that even the team can get franchise fatigue. We had been pushing hard with Resistance from the beginning, which was a tough birth to Resistance 3, which is a game we were all very proud of. With Resistance 3, it felt like we had capped off, or at least closed a major chapter in that franchise, so a lot of the team was looking forward to doing something different." And here Price says the team seriously considered developing Resistance 4, but it wasn't the right time. The team had fatigue from developing the previous 3 games and wanted to create something new. The team was also proud of what they had already created with the current trilogy. The next collection of stories are more recent. The story I wanted to start with was originally posted on Finder with the community head at Insomniac Games, James Stevenson, and the article is no longer available but has been saved by The Video Gamer. Stevenson was asked about the possibility of Resistance 4 returning, and he said, quote, "Oh wow, if I was a betting man, I feel like it's a long shot to me, but I have learned over the years to never say never. I think there are a lot of people out there that have fond memories of a Resistance game from the PS3 era. But yeah, never say never, it's just that we have no plans to make another Resistance game in the future." And I assume this is a common question for the developers at Insomniac. I don't think the community will ever let them forget Resistance, and will probably keep asking until a new game is released. But even in 2018, the studio was still not considering anything Resistance when this article was released. And the biggest update around Resistance 4 was revealed in June of 2021 via an episode of Sacred Symbols. The host, Colin Moriarty, revealed that Insomniac had actually pitched Resistance 4 to Sony, but Sony rejected the pitch because they felt too many post-apocalyptic games were already in development. He goes on to say the game was apparently too thematically similar to The Last of Us, so Insomniac was pushed to create something else. So we'll play this clip and hear what he actually had to say.
I don't think I've ever told anyone this publicly.
Oh?
But that, as I understand it, they were cognizant years ago that this was going to become a problem for them, the post-apocalyptic thing. Because Resistance 4 was pitched to them, and the reason this was pitched to them during the PS3 era, and they declined Resistance 4 because it sounded like The Last of Us, and they didn't want the two games to be overlapping with each other. So Resistance was shut down at that point. So they've been long cognizant of having this collection of post-apocalyptic games.
And this changes the narrative we have heard up to this point. It now sounds like Insomniac not only was interested in creating more Resistance, but pitching a new title to Sony, and that it was Sony that didn't want to continue the development process. And that is why we haven't seen any continuation of the series yet either, since Sony owns the IP and doesn't want to saturate the market with any more post-apocalyptic games. It really comes down to Sony and if they ever decide to bring back the IP due to enough fan interest, but for now it looks like they're just going to keep it dormant, because it wasn't from lack of developer interest. Either way, that is why Resistance 4 was cancelled and where I'm going to end this video. Make sure to like and share, subscribe for weekly gaming news, and I will see you guys in the next one.